Hi, and welcome to Non Sequitur Podcast, apropos of nothing. I don't know if I'm using that right. Or whatever the hell this is now. I don't know. Sorry if you can hear that. I'm eating gummies because it's been something like 12 hours since I ate anything that wasn't water. Does drinking stuff count as eating? I know water technically doesn't count since you don't actually get anything but water from water. And the point of eating is to get nutrients from stuff. But whatever. I mentioned this earlier for the other thing. But this is going to be me talking about the problems with launching a rocket to space, with the moon, in my case, more weather balloon. There's a bunch of small things that are wrong and are annoying to get around. I mean, I can't just go and buy a weather balloon for cheap off of eBay, or however the hell you buy weather balloons. I don't know. I haven't done that much research into the weather balloon side of things. I study rocket science in my free time, not meteorology. But one of the major problems is due to the height that weather balloons can reach and launching a rocket off, it's generally encouraged. I don't think it's technically required, but encouraged for you to inform like airports and maybe the military, depending on where you're setting it from. So that'd have to be a thing. It can't be overly windy, you'll be knocked off course, and depending on how you're securing your rocket, which apparently has to be pointed straight up, the rocket might fall over if you don't have it secured properly. Oh, in case you're worried about me eating and driving and recording this, the phone that I use to record is in a holder. And I'm trying to only eat at, like, when I'm stopped. Taking drinks of this kind of weird tasting blue raspberry slushy thing is whenever though. But one of the other biggest hurdles for launching a rocket from a weather balloon is that, at least for America, weather balloons need to have a radar reflector, and they have an upper weight limit of 6 to 12 pounds. I found a bunch of disagreeing stuff, so I'd have to look more into the laws for that and stuff. That'd make it really annoying. So instead, in my free time, I've been working on how I want to design the rocket, and I think I have a 3-chamber system that I've figured out how I want to do. The first chamber would be from the bottom up. The first chamber would be the fuel. I haven't decided what kind of fuel I want to use. It comes down to a matter of weight versus cost versus lift power, how much energy it can put out compared to everything else, yada 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 yada. Sorry, I shouldn't just be yada yadaing this stuff away. I'm trying to inform you all about stuff, not brush over the stuff. It's a habit from having gone through the American schooling system, which brushes over 80% of what you're supposed to know, and then blame you for not knowing it. But the main things to consider with fuel are its release system. Most modern rockets use a modern, rockets are actually all that old. Modern use a slow time controlled release, so it with stoppers set at a certain point to slow it down, but not actually stop the flow of fuel, because you don't want to do that, because then there'd be brakes in your fuel. The only time you want brakes are when you're injecting the bottom parts of your rocket that are no longer needed, which is one of the ways that they save on the fuel. But this is also really bad, because thanks to that and various explosions from failed rockets, our atmosphere is full of junk, just like our oceans are full of junk, and our land and everything else is full of crap, because humans are terrible. But I'm not going into that right now. Maybe later. Maybe I'll talk about the island of France. Ow. The island of trash the size of France. It bit my tongue. It hurt. Oh. But, how it's not actually an island and stuff. But ADHD brain is not going to be distracting me from rocket science right now. So the three biggest things, there's plenty of other things that you have to worry about with fuel, is weight, stability, and what's it called? Lifting power, thrusting, doing the actual thing that rocket fuel is supposed to do. There's a bunch of different things that we used as rocket fuel. Just technically speaking, gasoline is a type of rocket fuel. It's just not a very good one, from what I remember, because it's rocket fuel, or gasoline, petrol, or whatever if you're British, is explosive and flammable, and we only want flammable technically. And if you didn't know that not rocket fuel, gasoline is explosive, that's why car engines are the way they are. When put into one little thing, it creates, it pushes out, it explodes. Goddamn. It forces everything away, because that's what an explosion does. Which we use to effectively move pistons, which create kinetic energy, which is transferred from the up and down kinetic energy to rotational kinetic energy, which is transferred to a different rotational kinetic energy, which is transferred to a third type of rotational kinetic energy, which is put onto the wheels to overcome friction and begin propelling us forward. That's how cars work, kind of. There's a lot more to it than that, but whatever. I'm not explaining cars. I don't know anything about them. Look up car YouTubers for that if you want that. Maybe I'll do it myself later. I don't know. Oh, fucking bright lights. Sorry, it's the middle of the night right now. It's 20 minutes before midnight. And there's a lot of cars on the road for no apparent reason. I'm driving upstate to visit people. Not at midnight, obviously. The drive's going to take longer than that. But I work nights, so that's when I drive that's when I'm awake, so that's when I'm driving up there. Get a small hotel for like several hours. Well, it's gonna be for a couple of days because that's how long I'm visiting. But whatever. Back to rocket science and fuel. So gasoline isn't stable enough to do anything, or to be a ideal rocket fuel, because really just even a little too much heat and gasoline goes boom. Like best case scenario is there's not enough of it, like there's enough open space that it catches on fire instead of going boom, which is why you can pour gasoline out onto the ground and catch it on fire and it won't explode. Except it is, because fire is an explosion, just open. Like, all explosions are fire, and fire is an explosion, because explosions are just release of energy, and fire is just release of energy. There's more to it than that, but I'm not getting into physics of fire versus explosion and semantics versus like the real world definition versus the technical definition versus the physics definition versus the chemical definition, yada yada yada. I don't have to explain that because that's not what I'm explaining. There are a couple of other types that I'm looking into, but I don't know. Not my main worry right now, if I'm being honest. Because as I mentioned earlier, one of the things I do have to worry about is fuel to output, because weather balloons have a maximum weight, although I've been thinking about getting around that by using A, multiple balloons, and B, setting it off from a boat in international water, because fuck the law. There's so many lights. Why? I'm not even like on a highway or anything. Whatever. What if I set the weather balloon off from international water? I have to alert like military operations, and I have to worry about like boats coming by and smashing my tiny boat, because I'd only have a tiny little boat with maybe like a bed and a cabin to sleep, because I do like boating. It's fun, but I don't live in a place where I can just go out into the ocean every day right now. Wish I did. That'd be cool. Maybe instead of doing these podcasts from a car, do it from a boat in the ocean. Get a waterproof GoPro or something, dunk it in, and use that as the video footage. Oh yeah, if you haven't seen, I'm basically actually having video and stuff for these now. But I don't know how well it works. I have to do some testing, and YouTube doesn't seem to like me uploading normal videos. It doesn't mind me using that HD tube thing that I'm using now, but like, I don't like their watermark. I'm sure as fuck not paying for a premium for that, because it doesn't let you upload videos. Like, it only does still images, and the phone version isn't good enough to let you make a video out of sliding images, because that's all videos are. But I'm way off topic, so back to rocket science. Or, this isn't even technically science. Rocket speculation, I guess. Science would imply like math and testing, and I've done none of that. None! I'm just working out the problems before I can work out the problems, to work out the math, to figure out how to hit the moon. Yeah, the bottom chamber is fuel. Haven't decided on a fuel. Have to do a lot of research, but that's the basics of it. The second one I'm calling, like, well, technically speaking, it's soil, but I'm gonna call it like earthy components or something. It's gonna be high nitrogen based. They're couple of plant seeds that will grow well in that dirt. Quite a bit of water. A bit of dead animal and the bacteria on it. Some bone. I don't know what kind of bone. Probably just like beef or something. Something I can get easy from a butcher shop. Broken up into little chips. Maybe a worm. Although the worm's gonna die. That's fine. It doesn't matter that much. And plenty of water. I mentioned that, but there needs to be a lot of water so that, like, theoretically, moss and bacteria and shit will grow in the dirt, which is what all the other stuff is. It's like stuff for them to evolve and feed on, and I might add a drop of my own blood, or maybe somebody else's blood, if I ever actually get around to doing this, because, yeah, that's gonna be easy, building a fucking rocket. The idea behind this little chamber cylinder thing, I don't know how to describe it. What I'm picturing in my head. Think of like Coke cans stacked on top of each other. That's effectively what they're going to be. Except not that tall. Well, maybe that tall. I don't know. Depends on how much the metal I make it out of weighs. Which will depend on like heat pasting, heat shields, because I don't want it to fucking melt when it's entering what small amount of atmosphere the moon has. And yeah, the moon has an atmosphere because everything has an atmosphere in quotations. There's just like there's different kinds of atmospheres because there's everything down to like gluons and quirks and shit have gravity for some reason. Gravity is a big mystery to me. Actual scientists might know, but I'm not one, so fuck that. I might read on it later because it seems interesting, but I'm distracted by particle physics and rocket science right now. Still pisses me off that they're fucking called top and bottom and not truth and beauty. Fucking bitches. But the other component thing, where the idea is to have like small amounts of mollusks and bacteria and stuff grow inside the chamber, both while it's flying to the moon and sitting on the moon. Because that's all this rocket's really designed to do: sit on the moon, have like a small amount of stuff in it from Earth. It's like a big middle finger to everyone who's never gone to the moon. Because fuck you, I'm just some random dude from Texas and I got to the moon. Why can't X government do it? But if I can, it's going to be an airtight, closed terrarium system. The idea behind the closed terrarium is the best known one is that guy who kept like one spider lily plant in a jar, and it's like something like 40 years old at this point. Because as the water is used up and evaporated, bits of the plants will die off and decompose and make new soil with all the nutrients the plant needs, because it's the nutrients from the plant itself. So it will effectively keep itself there, and a small amount of the water will evaporate. But since it's an airtight system, mine would have to be, because not a lot of air in space, so it acts like a vacuum. Because despite what everyone thinks of when they hear space, it's not a true vacuum, because true vacuums don't occur in nature. space is full of shit. Like, there's plenty of oxygen and hydrogen and water and everything else in space. Even just like the big empty areas of space. Because that's how it works. Even ignoring the fact that everything is technically in space. Everything is in space. Like, but space is just so huge. It's like having a planet the size of the tub and having drops of water in there. If you're on the far end of the tub from the water drops, you're gonna think, oh, there's no water in this tub. But there is water, it's just really small and really far away. Ours isn't necessarily far away from us when coming to actual space, but space is so huge and the water is very small, like atomic scale small in most cases, or just big chunks of ice in one spot. Nature abhors a true vacuum, which is why the only true vacuums we have right now are artificial ones where we're doing all the vacuuming and are controlling it. Space can never be a true vacuum because space contains literally everything all the time, everywhere. If there was enough oxygen, water, and everything else, then eventually space would become breathable because you need something like 2% oxygen, 14% nitrogen, 2% carbon dioxide, or not dioxide, monoxide, 0.05% helium, and something else for humans to be able to breathe. There's a bunch of other gases, but we don't actually use them. So they just kind of like go through us and then go back out. But, and yes, carbon monoxide is poisonous. So is carbon dioxide. But so is oxygen and everything outside of maybe nitrogen. I'm not 100% sure if nitrogen is poisonous or not. Each of us are poisonous in different ways. But the reason why we need carbon monoxide is because we effectively produce dirty oxygen. It's, instead of being the traditional H2, which is breathable oxygen and the most common and stable form, it's what plants produce. We produce O1, Cl something, and small amounts of other bits and bobs. I'm talking about rocket science. Why am I explaining biology to you? Ignore all of that. Rocket science. Closed terrarium. Yeah, the idea behind it is to be a closed terrarium so that, fuck you, there's plants on Mars. And shit. These gummies are really good. The new Sour Patch ones. But, sorry. That's the earthy components with the plants to some degree feeding on like the meat and bone I put in there. Maybe the worm. I don't know if I'm gonna put a worm out of it. Not yet, because if plants do actually grow, the worm can be harmful because worms aren't harmful on Earth because there's a hell of a lot of dirt and most plants are only surface level. Surface level isn't just like what we think of as the surface, because the surface is the crust and the crust goes pretty deep. Like, we've never gotten past the crust without cheating. And by cheating, I mean going to a place where we're already past the crust and going, we're past the crust, kind of stuff. Because the crust isn't one uniform thickness. That's what volcanoes and shit are. Pimples in the crust. They go down to the peered out layer or whatever it is. It's vaguely greenish. It's kind of cool. But ignore that. Well, I mean, it's not green because it's red hot, but it's green. It would be green in a cooled off state. The reason why like lava rocks are black and shit is because they're hot enough that once they're exposed to oxygen, it begins ripping the oxygen away and oxidizing the material out into a gaseous state. One of those things that we just ignore. Leaving behind primarily carbon and silicon and some other shit that make rocks. Don't worry about it. It's not that important for a closed terrarium. But since the worm would only have whatever the dimensions of the thing is, it would eat a lot of the plant roots and would potentially kill the plant before it really got killing, which is what I don't want. And I don't know how long worms live, but I would maybe want a worm in there because they speed up the fertilization process of the soil. But probably not. I'll have to look into closed terrariums more. See about that. The top layer would be less terrarium, more aquarium. I would be filling it with photoplankton and zooplankton maybe, but only an extremely small amount of zooplankton compared to the photoplankton, so they don't eat all the photoplankton. Or maybe just no zooplankton at all. I don't know. But the main reason why I'm not sure about this one, and it's the one I'm most unsure about, which is impressive all things considered. So I literally know nothing for what I literally only know the very basics for what I'm going to do for the other two chambers. This one would need some decent source of plant material, or not necessarily plant material, but after a certain point, because despite the whole sunlight, water are all you need to grow a plant, and that would apply to photoplankton too, that's not actually true. There's a whole bunch of different nutrients in the soil. That's why you can't just like throw a rose flower at a ground and get a magic rose bush out of it. Because different plants need different things. Yada yada. Plant biology. I'm not getting into it. It's long and complicated. But a photoplankton would need something like that too, and they need certain metals and a supply of carbon dioxide to not really eat, but not eat, I guess, is the best way of putting it. But the idea behind this is to effectively create a primordial soup, skipping a couple of stages, because fucking hell, starting from like the amino acid stage, fucking what, a couple billion years to get to any kind of like noticeable stage. Because like most people only think of the scale of evolution from like when life actually begins, but those amino acids that are the basis for everything else sat as just like a pile of amino acids randomly jumbled on top of each other for probably slightly longer than the Earth existed, considering they probably sat like that in a meteor, probably since they were formed in whatever star made them. Oh yeah, if you didn't know, everything everywhere is made out of stardust and hydrogen. well, everything's made out of glucons, but and quirks and anti-quirks and stuff. But whatever. This isn't particle physics. This is space. So space, everything's made out of stardust. Because the only way most of these elements came together was by violently squishing protons, neutrons, and electrons into a very small space, which you need a lot of gravity to do. Like, a lot of gravity. And that's why, theoretically, there's new types of atoms and matter that doesn't exist in the like the knowable world inside of black holes. Is their black holes and neutron stars, because they're the densest points that we know of so far. And it's currently theorized that both are switching everything back down to quark soup, for lack of a better term, that made up the pre-Big Bang universe. Like, that's our best guess, along with the fact that black holes both erase and save data, as confusing as that sounds. Theoretically, all information is appreciable down to atoms to some degree or another. This person seems to have broken down in the most inconvenient spot. They broke down in the turn lane. It's the only lane. Partway through turning, just far enough back to not get hit. Super annoying. But I'm not on the highway. That's a lot of service trucks. But black holes. What am I on black holes? How did I get here? I'm teaching about rocket science. I'm not even teaching about rocket science. I'm explaining my idea behind rocket science. Or sending a rocket to you. Black holes save data because time is affected by gravity, and there's some massive, bigger ones at least, are so super heavy that time slows down. That from an outside perspective, you can just watch what amounts to the atoms slowly moving through the black hole. Meaning, if we had a way to see that, we don't. Right now we can only see light just going into the black hole, or not even a proper black hole, lack of anything, because that's what we perceive black holes as, because, well, no light escapes, so, and we require light to see. Which is how we know. I'm not getting into it now. That's black holes. Plants need metal and nutrients to survive, but I can fake that by having positors inside the water that contain the photoplankton for them to lightly feed off of, because that's how it happens at the bottom of the ocean. But the plants also need a certain temperature range, but photoplankton can survive in more extreme ones, because fucking hell does the Earth get to some extreme temperatures around both the pole and the equator, at the bottom of the ocean. Like, the only reason why the bottom of the ocean isn't boiling off is because there's more water than heat. There's like, lava can be one of the colder things down there, which is fucking wild when you think about it. But whatever. Not concerned about that right now. That's oceanography and topography and other shit, but not space. So space. Blue raspberry tastes so weird. It's a drink. Whatever. But a way to get around the fact that they need a certain amount of air would be to combine only the air with the closed terrarium system. But I don't want to do that because I need because life finds a way into the smallest cracks it can. So even if I made an air-only filter, what would amount to an air-only filter effectively? Small amounts of the plants and pollens and other things could directly get into the water and start growing there. And I don't want that because that would contaminate. That would start to contaminate the airflow and stuff, which would defeat the purpose of the airflow if it's getting choked off by plants. So the photoplankton might still die from that. But I don't know how else I would recycle air for the photoplankton to burble off of, I guess. I don't know. Reason for both the closed terrarium and the photoplankton chambers is I want the closed terrarium to act as like a clear distinction of what earth plants to some degree were like. It's to some degree because being trapped in that one vague space caused the plant to evolve in weird ways, and the plant would evolve in weird ways even if it's only one plant continuously, because life adapts weirdly when given the chance. But the idea behind the primordial soup photoplankton stuff, that are the basis for everything else so far on our planet, at least. If there's an example of other life on other planets, they might have a different type of primordial soup, or maybe they have the same one, because nature made this by randomly throwing stuff together, and whatever stuck. So, random chance dictates that there is a not zero chance that there's almost an exact copy of everything of like our type of life, humans, dogs, cats, and everything else on another planet that we just don't know about, because infinite is infinite, which means infinite chances for everything. They obviously wouldn't be us because our stuff is, as far as we can tell, oddly specific to us and us alone. But I'm about to my hotel, so I'm going to sign off. So, thank you for listening, if anyone's been listening at all. Bye.